Welcome back to Photoshop. Today is going to be all about selections. Let's get started. File, open, navigate to this PC or my computer, depending on what edition of Windows and what computer you have. Courses, so this PC courses or my computer courses. Art, computer graphic lessons, Photoshop lessons. We're going to be in lesson 3, and we're going to be opening up both files. So because there's only 2 files, it doesn't matter if you hold down Shift or Control. Remember, if you hold down Shift, it's going to select everything within a line. So from your first to the last. Control allows you to skip files and open files selectively. So either holding Shift or Control does not matter. I want you to open both of those files, the end and the start. So this is what we're going to start with. We've got a disassembled plate. If you click on the other file, you'll see we're going to assemble this plate. Ours is going to look somewhat different, but that's okay. Go ahead and close the end file, and we're going to save the start file. File save as. You need to save this in your computer courses folder, so navigate to your folder, computer graphics, lessons, and we're going to call this selections. I already have this done once before, but that's okay. Remember to start and stop this video whenever you need to. So today we're going to be going through all of the selection tools that you're probably going to be using throughout the semester. Selections are what controls your changes in Photoshop. It's the way you tell the computer what area am I working with, and it kind of creates a border for all of your selections and changes. So we're already familiar with the marquee selections. We've used a couple of them. We've used the rectangle and the elliptical. We will not be using single roll. There might be some times in the future when you want to use that, but they work generally the same way. In this drawer down here, we have the lasso drawer. So we've got the basic lasso tool, we've got the polygon and the magnetic, and we're going to be going over 2 of those 3 today. If I have time, I'll go into the polygon. The next drawer over, we have the quick selection tool and the magic wand tool. Why are these in the same drawer together? Because all of these work very similar. We're going to start today with the quick selection tool. That's the one that looks like the paintbrush with the little dotted line next to it. Okay, now once you've located that tool, I want to explain how this works. It works just like a paintbrush. You can change the size, so you can make it bigger or smaller, and it's literally going to paint on a selection. And the way this works is it's looking for common colors of pixels and values, so it's going to grab onto those. And when it gets to a sudden change, it's going to stop. So if I click and drag over my plate, you're going to see it's going to stop at the edge of the plate. Now this works pretty well when you've got a nice consistent change between the object and the background. I'm going to deselect that. If I come over and I try to select, come down. So I'm just showing you and demonstrating. If I try to select maybe just this coral here and the plate, see how it grabs the parts I don't want to? I use my keyboard shortcut to deselect there, which is Control D. Same thing here. See how it's grabbing because the color and the value got too dissimilar there. But it works great sometimes, like I said, when you have a very distinct background. So I want you to click and drag on the sand dollar, and you'll see it selects it right away because the sand dollars are all pretty much the same color. Okay. Give me 1 second. I'm going to do something just so that you can see what's going on here, how this works. Okay. All right. So now that we have our sand dollar selected, I want you to grab your Move tool. Keyboard shortcut is V. And I want you to click and drag and move that shell somewhere onto the plate, or excuse me, the sand dollar. So when you move this, depending on whatever you have your background color, so see over here in my toolbox, my background color is set to red. Now notice I have a red hole because when you are using these selection tools and the move tools in this manner, it's simply like using scissors and glue. So right now we have scissors. We haven't pasted this thing down yet because I still have the marching ants. I can still move it. But the moment I deselect it, it's going to glue it down. So you want to make sure that you've made all of your changes. It's the size you want, all of that good stuff. When you're happy, you're going to deselect it either by going to select, deselect, or using the keyboard shortcut Control D. Okay, great. Now that you've moved your sand dollar, we're going to move on to the next object which we're going to move, which is our plate. And I'm going to click on my zoom tool, and I want you to zoom in just slightly on the plate. Don't zoom in so that you lose everything, but get zoomed in fairly tight. Okay, so we know that that quick selection tool isn't going to work because we've already tried it and it grabbed too much of the plate. We're going to go with the tool that makes the most sense, which the plate is elliptical. So we're going to grab the elliptical marquee tool. Now I want you to watch me do this first before you try it. So the hardest part about using the elliptical tool especially is you don't know where to start your ellipse because you have to make a general guess. So I'm going to guess and drag, but you're going to see right away, whoa, it's not lining up. I still have my finger held down on the mouse. I'm still drawing. Okay, I'm still drawing the marquee, but I've got to realign, I got to reposition this because I didn't start in the right spot. So again, remember my finger is still held down on the mouse. I'm going to hold down my space bar. It stops the marquee from growing, but now I can move that marquee anywhere I want. I'm going to try to realign it up with an edge, and then I'm going to continue dragging again, and I can keep doing that. So I'm still holding down the mouse button, holding my space bar, realigning that, release the mouse button so I can position it the way I want, and then go ahead and release. Now, if you do not have a mouse and you are trying to use this on a finger pad, I suggest you get a mouse. If you are on a mouse and you have the ability to get a drawing tablet for this lesson, I would grab a drawing tablet and a stylus. The finger pads are the worst for this. Mouse are okay. The pens are the best. All right, so we're going to zoom all the way out. And a quick reminder, how do you zoom all the way out? Real fast. You're so smart. Yep, you double click the hand tool. From here, then we need to move this thing over. So we're going to find our move tool because you always have to grab that move tool. If you don't, if you just try to move it with the selection tool, it's just going to move the selection border, right? Some of you might have already discovered that. All right, so we're going to grab this and we're going to move it. Now, it's a little big for my taste. So we're going to resize this thing. So we're going to resize it with it still selected. This is very important. We're going to go up to Edit, and we're going to go to Free Transform. We're going to start here in Free Transform. We're going to use Free Transform a lot this lesson. So Free Transform allows you to move your sides and tops and bottoms, any of these bounding boxes. But if I just move a side, see how I stretch it? Or if I do a top and bottom, see how I stretch it? And even if I use the corners, I can accidentally stretch it. Okay. If I ever stretch it and I can't get it, I can't figure out, just hit the no. So hit cancel, which is up here in the top. There's a little crossbar. That's going to get us out of Free Transform. If we got to get out of there. We did it wrong. Okay, let's try that again. Edit, Free Transform. The way you resize, make it bigger or smaller without distorting, is you grab a corner, but before you start clicking and clicking and dragging, you must hold down the Shift key. Super important. Super important. Now I can click and drag and make that a little bit smaller. When I'm happy, I'm going to start first by releasing the mouse first and then the Shift key. Now it's not going to let me do anything else because I still have this bounding box. Until I hit enter or apply the transformation, I'm going to be frozen. Free Transform frees you until you tell it what to do. Is this good or bad? Again, if I don't like it, I can hit no. I can cancel and get out of it. If I want to confirm it, then I'm either going to click the check mark or I'm lazy. I'm just going to hit the enter key and that applies it. Notice I still have it selected so I can still move this thing. So move it in a spot where you want, don't care where. And then go ahead and deselect, glue it down by going to select deselect or Control D. Okay, so we are going to move on. We're going to zoom in on our coral. Now, can't use the elliptical because it's an irregular shape. I can try using the quick selection. Oh, but it's getting a little bit of the outside. No, that's not what I want. That's not quite working. But I'm going to show you kind of a flip way of using some of these tools. We're going to use the magic wand tool. It's in the same drawer with the quick selection tool. The way the quick magic wand tool, sorry, let me back up. The magic wand tool works simply by clicking. So if the quick selection tool, you click and drag to paint, the magic wand tool, you simply click. And anything that is that common area, that common color, That's how it works. So things that are a solid color work great for this. The coral, if I click and drag, see it's not solid. It's selecting some and not others. But the area around it is. So let me show you a little trick, a little hack. So I'm going to click and drag my rectangle marquee tool. That's the square. I'm going to click and drag a square. Make sure that you don't get the sticker or the plate in. So I'm selecting the area here. You're like, whoa, wait, sure, I don't want that white part. I don't want it. I just want the coral. Ah, I'm going to show you a trick. Remember, this part is solid white. I'm going to grab my magic wand tool and I'm going to do something magical with it. And I'm going to subtract the area. Now, this works with all of your selection tools. To subtract from a selection, which means you want to get rid of part of the selection, you hold down the Alt key. When you do, and you're going to see my cursor, my magic wand, it has a little minus sign. So that means when I click on the white, it's going to subtract. It's going to work the same way, but it's going to subtract anything from that selection that is that one color. So holding down Alt, I'm going to click, boom, gone. What's left? Only the coral. Go ahead and stop the video and try that now. Awesome. Now that you have that, we're going to move this over. Couple things about moving over. So we've got our scissors, which means it's going to cut it out. What if I don't want to cut this thing out? What if I just want to make a copy? I don't want to leave a hole there. To make a copy with the move tool, all you have to do is hold down the Alt key and move it. Now look, whoa, it moved a copy. I now have a copy of the coral. So go ahead and move it over, but don't deselect it yet. All right, next thing is, well, what if I want to just move it a little bit? Because sometimes it's kind of hard. You accidentally, your mouse or your finger pad, especially if you have a finger pad, it gets crazy when you're trying to move stuff around. What if you want to just nudge it just a little bit, but you can't seem to nudge it? It keeps jumping too much. Well, you can use your arrow key. So I'm not, my no finger on the mouse. I'm not using the move tool. In fact, I'll move it way over here. If I use my arrow keys on my keyboard, you might even hear me clicking right now, up and down, left and right. It will move it 1 pixel at a time. If I hold down the Shift key and hit my arrows, it's going to jump at 10. So maybe it's more than just a little nudge. It's going to go 10 pixels at a time. So go ahead and try that. Nudge your little coral around. All right, still not quite done with our coral here. Now that we've got it on the plate, we still have it selected. I want to tilt this thing just a little bit. So we're not resizing it, but we still need to go to the Edit Free Transform. We're back to this box again. Again, we're not resizing, but we're going to tilt this thing. So if I let my cursor hover right outside the box, you should get a double-headed arrow. When you do, that indicates it's going to rotate your selection. Now, if I just click and drag or click and move my finger, notice you can rotate your coral. When you're done rotating, hit Enter. If you are happy with it, go ahead and deselect. Okay, we're doing lots here. We're going to move on. Make sure you save. If you haven't saved recently, let's go to File, Save. Just double checking. And this time, we're going to collect our shell sticker here. We're going to make a bunch of these things, okay? So what do you think is the best selection tool? Maybe. How about we try the elliptical tool, okay? Because this is a sticker, right? But you know when you click and drag, it's hard to make a perfect circle. And our sticker here is, in fact, a perfect circle. So Shift. Shift also means perfect in in Photoshop. So if I were to hold down my Shift key before I click and drag, notice I can't make it an oval. It's always a perfect circle. Okay, so I can try to guess. I can click and drag and try to guess, and I can move that selection and be like, nope, that's too big. I'm going to click and drag again. I'm even going to use my space bar and try to get it right on. Ugh, that's kind of hard. How do I get it exact? So I'm going to show you another trick with the elliptical marquee tool. It requires some dexterity with fingers. So if you have a finger pad, this might be a challenge for you. If you have a mouse, it's better. Pen, it's the easiest. All right. So you want to find where you think is, generally speaking, the middle of the sticker. And you got to click to start the selection. And you start dragging. You're like, sure, it's in the middle. This doesn't make sense. But if you hold the Alt key, I'm holding Alt and you start dragging. Whoa, it goes out from the center. But you're like, whoa, wait, I'm making an oval again. How do I make it perfect? Holding down Shift. So right now, I am holding down the Alt key and the Shift key with my non-dominant hand as I drag with my right hand, which is my dominant hand, the mouse or the finger pad, and I'm trying to get it right on the edge, but I'm like, oh, I didn't get the right center because it's not centered. Well, if I still have a finger free on my non-dominant hand, I can hold down the space bar and I can move that selection until I get what I think is a fairly perfect circle. But here's the trick. I'm still holding down with my non-dominant hands on the keyboard. You have to release your mouse or your finger and the finger pad first, and then those keys. Stop the video, give that a try. Okay, you might be a stud. That might have worked, but guess what? If I'm like, I don't have time for all that, I'm going to do the same thing I did with the coral. I'm going to click and drag my marquee. I'm going to grab my Magic Wand tool, hold down Alt. Bam, there's my sticker. Bam, there's my sticker. All right, grab your Move tool. We're going to do one more new thing. I'm going to show you keyboard shortcut. We're going to open up the Layers panel. So go to Window and Layers. Now you're going to notice we only have one layer, and we've started to dabble a little bit in layers. Our next lesson, we're going to get big time into layers, okay? But so we've only got one layer. And even if I move, which we're going to do, you're going to watch, I'm going to move a copy. How do you make a copy? We don't want a hole here. How do we make a copy? You're getting it. Yep, Alt, and I click and drag. But notice it's still on the same layer. If I release my deselection, it is going to paste it to this area. There is a keyboard shortcut way that you can make a copy and put it on its own layer. There's a couple different ways. First thing, if I want to make it on its own layer, I want to make another copy because we're going to make a bunch of these stickers. I can go up to Edit, Copy, Edit, Paste. Well, you're like, that didn't happen. Nothing's there. Grab your Move tool and move and drag. Oh, what? There's another sticker. We now have a new layer over here called Layer 1. I'm going to rename that and I'm going to call it Sticker. So we've got two stickers. This one here, it's glued. This one here, no matter what, I can always come back later if I'm on that layer and I can move it. Moving it around. Okay. How do I make some more copies of this sticker? Well, I'm going to click and drag down to the new layer. Look at that. Now I got a third sticker. These two are all on their own layers. I can keep moving those. That's the great thing about putting objects or different selections on their own layers is you can always move them at any time until we flatten, so to speak. So go ahead and make two copies. Okay, here we go. We got sticker. We got background layer, sticker, copy layer. Next one, we're gonna make one more, but I'm too lazy to drag this thing down here. I'm gonna go Control J. Bam, got another sticker. So now we've got three stickers on top of our original sticker that's glued down. Okay. Couple things I want to do here is on the third sticker, which we're going to call this, we're going to double click on the layer. We're going to call it third sticker, just so keeping things clear here. We're going to go ahead and we're going to resize this third sticker. We're going to make it a little bit bigger. So we're going to edit. This time, I just want you to go to transform. So instead of free transform, we're just going to go to transform and go to scale. Notice it works the same thing as the free transform, but it does not let me rotate or turn. Also, if I go to edit transform, it will let me rotate it, but it won't let me scale it. One other thing that it will let me do if I go to transform is it will rotate it 180, 90 clockwise, or 90 degrees counterclockwise. So that's great if you just want to flip something. If you know you want to flip something completely horizontal or vertical, if I go to edit transform, if I go to flip horizontal, it flips it horizontally. If I go to edit transform flip vertical, it's going to flip it right side back up again. So the transforms are really nice if you know there's just something specific you want to do. I like free transform because it lets you do all of these things. I can rotate. I can resize it. I can even flip it. Okay, so go ahead and I want you to rotate, transform, flip, resize in some way, shape, or form this third sticker. All right, now that you've done that, a little bit of review. I want you to change the color of the sticker. I'm not going to tell you how. How would you do it without the paintbrush? Using one of your image adjustment commands, I want you to change the sticker. Stop the video, do that now. All right, come back. How'd you do it? Well, I'll show you how I would do it. I'm going to go up to image adjustments and I'm going to go to hue and saturation and I'm going to change my hue. If you didn't do yours this way, if you found another way to do it, that's perfectly fine. But it should simply be the change of the color of the sticker. I don't want to see any change in the black or the other colors. One last thing we're going to do to the sticker, and then we're going to move on. Last thing we're going to do here is I'm going to show you how to apply a layer style. We're going to get into these heavy with our next unit on layers, but a layer style is simple effects like drop shadows and strokes, bubbles and embosses. And I'm just going to show you where this is and I'm going to let you play. So there's a couple ways you can get to it. First thing you need to know is you just got to be on the layer. If there's nothing else on that layer, you need to be on that layer. I'm going to show you the difference here in a little bit. You can go to the drop down menu at the top of the layers. And I lied. It's not letting you do that anymore. That's new and interesting. Okay, because they never go this way. I lied. We're going to go up to layer up at the top and go to layer style. And you'll see you've got lots of them. You've got bevel and emboss, stroke, inner shadow, inner glow, satin, blah, 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 all these. And drop shadow. The other way to get to it is the way that I always get to it, which is why I forgot where the other way was, is I'm lazy. I go to the bottom. There's this FX button. And I click on it, and there they are. Let's go to drop shadow. I'm gonna let you just play. You don't have to use drop shadow. You can do any of the other ones you want, but go ahead and play with the dials so you can see what some of those do, outer glow, inner glow, whatever, and click OK. Once you do, you notice you have an FX there. Tells us there's a layer style. Okay, we're gonna move on, but in order to move on, we've got to click on the background layer. So stop what you're doing and click on your background layer. And all of this stuff, why we're clicking on different layers, is going to make way more difference. It's going to make a lot of sense when we get into the next lesson. Okay, so we're on to our last group of selection tools, which are our lasso selection tools. So I want you to grab the zoom tool, and I want you to zoom in on the purple shell, just a little bit. Okay, don't zoom in so much that this edge gets too close to your margins. This is like, I want you to try yours, make yours look as similar to mine as you can. Okay, so I'm going to start by explaining the polygon lasso tool first. It works great when you're dealing with geometric shapes that are not basic circles and squares, like maybe it's a triangle or it's a star or whatever. This one works great because what it does is you just click a point. It's almost like connect the dots. And if you connect to the starting point again, you'll get your good selection. So that, in a very quick nutshell, that's the polygon lasso tool. I rarely have a use for it because I'm rarely just trying to select basic geometric shapes, but sometimes you might want to, or make an odd trapezoidal selection. The other tool, which is your lasso tool, which is honestly your bread and butter, that's the one you use the most often of your selection tools, because most things are organically shaped, which means they're not a basic geometric shape, and they're rarely against a flat background like these are. So you usually have to draw it on that way because the quick selection won't work because it's too similar to the background area. And what the lasso tool does is it works just like a pencil. So it outlines. So rather than painting the selection, it's going to outline the selection, which means you got to have a pretty steady hand though. So you got to try to trace the edges of things. I'm doing this really fast, so mine's even worse than normal. And if it doesn't close, if the selection doesn't close, hit your enter key. So go ahead and just try. Don't do anything. Don't move your shell, but go ahead and try that. It's not easy, right? And it takes a ton of time. So I'm going to show you a shortcut. So a great tool is your magnetic lasso tool. And what it does is it's going to work similar to your quick selection and your magic wand, where it's going to try to find contrast in pixels and color and value, and it's going to create an edge for your selection border using now same techniques and technologies. However, with the lasso tool, you kind of sort of draw it on and it's going to snap to the edge, the closest edge you can find. The reason I like using this one when I've got a general where like some parts of my object are very clearly defined and maybe some parts aren't, I'm still going to use this because I'm going to use it because it speeds up the process before I switch to the lasso tool. So watch. So I can go way faster than I did. Suck into the edge there, like my sound effects today. But here's the crazy thing. If I go to the edge, it's like, whoa, wait a second, where's it going? If that happens, just stop, click the enter key and deselect it. Try it again. Because what happens sometimes if you get too close to a border, it gets crazy. Okay. Hit enter to close it and then deselect it. Try again. All right. But, anyways, it works pretty dang good. I go pretty fast and hit my enter key. Okay. If I zoom in, whoa, see, it really did get most of those pretty good where there was a clear definition. Now I'm going to switch back to my lasso tool and clean that up. So stop the video, use the magnetic lasso tool, and I want you to get a decent selection edge, even if there's some parts that it kind of messed up on. Okay, stop the video now. Okay, now that you're back, I'm going to show you, well, how do you clean this up? So it's an okay selection, but it's not great. Two keys are important here, Shift and Alt. Shift adds, Alt subtracts. Remember that again, Shift adds, Alt subtracts. So my shell is in this selection area. I'm going to fine tune it with my regular lasso tool. So anywhere where it left out part of the shell and I've got to add it, Shift key. So I'm going to hold down the Shift. Watch me as I do this first. And now I'm going to retrace. And you've got to circle back to where you started because I'm adding that chunk in. And it doesn't matter how far out you go. Okay, watch me again. And notice I've zoomed in a lot. See, there's just a little bit it left out there. I'm going to hold down my Shift key. I'm going to trace the line where I actually want it to be, and then I'm going to circle back around. So I'm adding parts of the shell it accidentally left off. Okay, stop the video and try that now if there's any areas that it left out. All right, now that you're back, now we got to get rid of some parts. Okay, so it accidentally grabbed on and added parts that aren't part of the shell. Remember, what was the key for subtracting? You guys are right. Alt. So this time, instead of holding down Shift, I'm holding down Alt. I'm retracing. And remember, you got to circle back. So again, I'm holding down Alt. And you'll see your cursor changes to a lasso with a little subtract or minus sign. So I'm cleaning all of that up. Any place where it left in part of the background. Okay, stop the video and try that now. Disregard what I did there. All right, I want to show you something. So like, let's say you didn't want some part in here in your selection. You can do that. So if I hold down my Alt key, I'm just showing you don't do this. But like, let's say for some reason I didn't want this. I could come in here and trace this. And now that's not part of the selection. So yeah, I removed that part of the selection. If for some reason I have something on the inside that didn't get added and it's not like on the outside, I can hold down Shift and be like, hey, dude, I actually want that. Hold down Shift. Oops. Ah! Let's try that again. Grab the wrong tool. Hold down Shift. I'm just circling. I want that. I want that stuff in there. Add it to this selection and it gets added. All right. Once you have that, go ahead and grab your Move tool and I want you to click and drag your shell. While it's still marching ants, let's go ahead and make it a little bit bigger. Stop the video. Do that now. Apply your transformation if you didn't. All right, but you still have this selected. So I want to show you something. We're going to apply a layer style. If it's on the same layer, so right now, again, if you look at my layers panel, this shell, it's on the same layer. It's not on its own separate layer. I can still add a layer effect to this, but not in the same way, okay? I can go to my layer styles, but it won't let me do anything. The FX button isn't there because it's on the background. If I want to give it a layer style, it has to be on its own layer. It has to be on its own layer. Okay, so if you want to, one thing you could do here, if I only want one shell, I could still do my Control J. It still looks like there's only one shell there. I could go ahead and I could add my drop shadow. Ooh, that's where you can see I left out parts. Ooh, see, I got some weird chunks in there. So go ahead and with your Control J, your purple shell stacked on top of the original, go ahead and add a drop shadow. All right, last shell here. And I'm not going to add anything new to you. No new selection tools. Let's see what you got now. I'm not going to tell you how to do this. I want you to select the shell as best you can, and I want you to move it on. Stop the video and do that now. All right, how did you do it? Did you use a quick selection tool? Ooh, this is a good example of why that didn't work. Did you see why that wasn't working? Because I was on the wrong layer. You got to make sure you're on your background layer. Some of you might have already had that problem. Maybe you figured it out now that I had the same problem. Yeah, my quick selection tool isn't working great. Let's try my magnetic lasso tool and see if I can get a decent one. Key? Yeah, that's not bad. That's good enough. All right, I'm gonna move that baby on there, and I'm gonna zoom back out, and I'm gonna use my arrow keys, get it where I want. Perfect. Deselect, glue it down. All right, last thing we're gonna do here is I do want to crop this because we got all this extra stuff out here. We don't want any of this stuff. I want you to crop until you can't see anything. So if that means you have to cut off part of your plate, like here I have to, I don't care. That's fine. Just do that and hit enter. We're gonna crop. Last thing we're gonna do here is I'm gonna show you how to flatten layers. We're gonna go up to layer. Let me show you why this is important. In my layers panel, so we've got all these multiple layers. Okay. If I want to flatten it down, I'm going to go to layer, flatten image. It's all down to one layer. Now we're going to go to file, but instead of save, actually, yeah, let's go to save. Let's go to save. Okay. Now it's still a PSD file. If I look up here, even though it's one layer, it's still a Photoshop file. Before you send me your lessons from here on out in Photoshop, you've got to save them as JPEGs so that they're more Google Classroom friendly. So we're going to go to File, Save As. So we've got it saved twice. In the file format, we're just going to drop it down. We're going to go to JPEG. And we're just going to click Save. So now we'll have a Selections Photoshop file and a Selections JPEG file. All right, that's it. You're done. Get this turned into me. And if you have a worksheet or a Google form to fill out about this, stop the video and do that now. Good work.